Hello, everybody. Just sorting things out. Got a few things to talk about. So, for the want of a better name, I think I'm going to name these little chats as Straight Talking. So this is Straight Talking 1. It's simple and it's what I came up with. So we've got a few things to talk about. I'm just going to try and sort them out, and got some interesting things to talk about. I was going to make a video about each of these items, but it's much better to do a live stream, I think, on these matters. So, did everybody see the President Trump Zelensky can you call it a press conference, like an interview, press conference? I don't know what it was, but it was funny. He really got put in his place, didn't he, Zelensky? It was quite funny. Didn't like it. I'm going to bring something up about that in a minute because I found it hilarious. Just looking for the. I've got some pictures to add because we're going to talk about certain things. Exactly, Enoch. It's live, Enoch, this one. It's going to... here we go. I've put everything in a file so I don't lose it. So we're going to talk about Zelensky first. Talk about Zelensky. The little midget, the midget dictator. So he well and truly got put in his place today, didn't he? He didn't like it, and he more or less got said, "Look, you can come back when you want a peace deal." This guy is delusional. He thinks he can win a war against Russia, and without America's help, he hasn't got no chance of that happening. Even with America's help, he had very little chance because there's no way Donald Trump is going to get involved in a war with Russia. Not a chance in hell. And who can blame him? And the countries of Europe, they're in no shape whatsoever to go to war with Russia. We in the UK, our British army, I think at the minute we've got the smallest army we've ever had. I think our army at the minute is at 72,000, which wouldn't last very long in a war against Russia. And a lot of Europe's armies are not big, they're not massive, and they certainly couldn't go into a prolonged war against Russia for very, very long. In fact, we're in no shape to fight a war with Russia because we've been giving all our ammunition, missiles to Ukraine to throw at Russia. So we're not even armed to take on Russia at this point. So it would basically be suicide if Zelensky decides to go and poke the bear further. If Putin really wanted to, he could just level Ukraine. But the reason he isn't doing it is because there's a lot of Russian-speaking Ukrainians that actually call themselves Russian rather than Ukrainian. The guy's an absolute clown. Remember the reality TV show Zelensky won to president of the Ukraine, and the next thing you know, he's installed as real president. Yeah, many people don't realize that this guy is just a puppet. He's a game show host. He's a comedian. He's not even a real president. And we've got people. I'm going to go into this now. Actually, we'll take the little Tin Pot leader off because Carl Benjamin said something in one of his on Lotus Eaters. He claimed, I'll get him up in a minute. Yeah, he said some interesting things about Zelensky. So Carl Benjamin said some interesting things on the Lotus Eaters podcast. He claimed that Zelensky wasn't a dictator. And you know what? I agree with the majority of stuff that Carl Benjamin says and the people on the podcast of the Lotus Eaters. But sometimes I just think they're very, very middle class in their attitudes. And they just highlight just how sometimes they can be out of touch with the everyday average person too, because they don't live the life of the everyday average person. So Carl Benjamin is basically saying that Zelensky isn't a dictator. So let's just go and have a look at some evidence for that, shall we? So yeah, I find that too, Enoch. I don't like fence sitters. This is at this point in our history. This is not a time for people that sit on the fence. You need people that are going to make decisive decisions and not be fence sitters. And I keep saying this: the middle ground is where you go to get killed. Nobody wants to be in the middle ground. You know, the middle of the road, it's where you go to get run over. It's not where you want to be. We'll check out this. So we'll present. Yeah, it's definitely not a time to be a fence sitter. And no, definitely not. Right, so we check this out. Sorry, the computer's on absolute go slow today, so. But yeah, I've noticed that quite recently that I've been disagreeing more and more with everything that they've been saying. So Carl Benjamin's been saying that Zelensky's not a dictator. So let's just have a look at some evidence. When it decides to upload. Right, so I did a quick Google search, as you can see. On December the 30th, 2022, President Volodymyr Zelensky signed into law a bill that would expand the power of the government to regulate media outlets and journalists in the country over the objections of journalists and international press and freedom groups. So basically, he took all the nation's TV stations and merged them into one state, basically, TV service. So getting rid of the free press. So that's basically what a dictator will do. He wants to control the flow of information. So what do? You ban the free press. That's the first thing that you do. The other things that he's done that give evidence towards him being a dictator, he's basically conscripted every single male in the country of any age into the army against their will. When we've seen videos of this where we've seen press gangs walking around the streets, dragging people off to the front line to be cannon fodder in the war against Russia. Not exactly the actions of a democracy, really, that is it. Conscripting every single male in your country and banning the free press. Not exactly something that I would associate with a democracy. And he's also done this as well. I found this very interesting too. Yeah. Yeah, cancelling elections. I mean, the argument could be made that yeah, he's in a war, but he's a dictator. Zelensky is a dictator, and there's no doubts about that in my mind. Right. Because I find this very interesting. There is one aspect of this that I would say, yeah, that makes sense when you see it in a minute. So, President Zelensky suspends 11 political parties in Ukraine over Kremlin collusion. Now, what does this sound like? This sounds like, all the accusations that were made against President Trump about, oh, he's in collusion with Russia. We can't allow him to be in power because he's going to betray us all. I think this is an excuse. This was just an excuse used by Zelensky to clamp down on his opposition, because that's what a dictator does. They don't particularly like opposition to their power or their leadership. And I don't understand how people can say that Zelensky isn't a dictator when he's showing all the attributes of a dictator. He's suppressing free speech. He's banning free speech, basically, isn't he? He's banning all opposition to him. He's conscripting his own people of any age into the army forcibly and taken to the front line with hardly any training whatsoever to go and be cannon fodder in a war against Russia. Not really what I would call a democracy at all. And I don't understand why Sargon McCarty, Carl Benjamin, is actually defending the guy. It doesn't make any sense, because he is a dictator. President Trump is right. He is a dictator. He's a tin pot dictator. And the West may have installed him as president of Ukraine, but they've definitely lost control of the guy. They really have. The power has gone to his head. He's out of control. Definitely out of control. Why would Ukraine maintain an age of 25 years for conscripting young men in the middle of a war? Do you see the news about Ukraine recruiting single young women to service foreign mercs? No, I didn't see that. And I don't understand why people are defending Zelensky. We know why Zelensky was installed in Ukraine. The previous president of Ukraine was very Russia friendly, and the West didn't want that. They wanted to provoke the big bear, didn't they? They wanted to provoke him. So they wanted their little puppet Zelensky put into power. And then what did he do as soon as he was in power, 2014? He immediately started shelling Russian-speaking Ukrainians in the Donbass region. And again, that's another example of a dictator genociding your own people with artillery. What was it? It was up to, I think it was 50,000 people that were slaughtered in basically Zelensky breaking the Minsk agreement. You're a medium color revolution, Obama. Lord. Yeah. So this is the best bit on the bottom here, where it says the crackdown on opposition parties follows a ban on private news media. I wonder why Zelensky would ban private news media. Why would he do that? That's nothing connected to the war, and that's something that conveniently is never brought up by Carl Benjamin. That this is what I mean with some YouTube political commentators. They read all these books on everything, but do they really learn anything from what they're reading? It's okay knowing all these facts, but that's the difference between intelligence and wisdom, isn't it? Wisdom is the application of knowledge. Knowing all the facts and then not applying it doesn't make you smart. He's read a lot of books, but sometimes smart people can be dumber than ever, in my opinion. I mean, I'm guessing some people out there as well. I've worked with people that have been to university that are great academically, but when it comes to practicality and application of that knowledge, they're useless. Yeah, they know a lot of stuff, but they can't apply it. And what's the use in all that knowledge if you can't apply it to real world applications? It's pointless. It's useless. So yeah, that's what I've got to say on the Zelensky thing. Another thing I've got to bring up, right? I was going to cover this. I was going to cover this yesterday in the live stream, but I was talking about the Civil War and all that kind of stuff. Another thing that I'm getting really sick and tired of is all these AI videos that are popping up, and it's making the YouTube experience unbearable. I know a lot of people just say don't watch it, but it's hard to tell what is AI and what isn't. It's annoying. I don't know if anybody else has had this issue with the AI videos that are popping up. You can immediately tell they're AI as soon as they come on because they have this weird robotic voice about them. They don't quite pronounce words properly, and it's just utter garbage. A lot of it. There's some political commentating AI channels. One is called, is it Britain's Falling? There's another one called the Indian Times or whatever, and they just basically they just grab videos from the internet and just put a clickbait title on, and it just doesn't make any sense half the time. It's just annoying. That is where the term academic is applied, as in it's academic. It means the person is detached from reality. Yeah, exactly. And I think it's easily done, Enoch. I think some people they form their own little bubble, their own little universe, and because they're so well read, they think, oh yes. The main difference, and this is why Tommy Robinson suffers. Tommy Robinson is just as clever as anybody, any of the political commentators. Tommy Robinson is their equal intellectually. The only difference between Tommy Robinson and those people is that Tommy Robinson doesn't have the accent or doesn't know the big words like they know. He can articulate himself just as well as they can. If you've ever seen his Oxford Union address, he's amazing in that. But yeah, worldly. Tommy Robinson's lived. You know, he's worldly. He's lived the life. Some of these, they're very young. Some of these YouTube political commentators, and they haven't lived life yet. They haven't lived. They haven't gone on that road, and they haven't faced hardships. And hardships mold you as a person because it's how you come through hardships that defines you as a person, in my opinion. It was amazing, absolutely amazing, and I think he shocked quite a few people with that one. My brother is a university professor, highly knowledgeable and informed, but clueless in practical. Exactly. I had oh god, what was it? I've got to be careful what I say because I've got to be careful of non-disclosure agreements and stuff. But I had a guy out in Iraq with me in my team, and wow, very, very clever guy, but he was a liability out in the field. He was I'm gonna be careful. He was a communications expert, and he was great with that side of things. But when it come to operational awareness, he hadn't got a clue. And anybody who's been out in a war zone or anything like that knows that you've got to have eyes in your arse. You've got to have eyes everywhere. And when you're out there, you develop like a sixth sense, and it never leaves you because it just builds over time. When you see somebody, you just automatically know there's something not right about them, the body language, and it's like that. It's a split second that you know, yeah, there's something wrong about that person, and you just know. He didn't have any of that, and he was a liability. And we had lots of people come out like that. We had a few armed response, UK armed response officers come out and try the hand at doing private security, and they were scared that their first firefight, they were hiding behind concrete blocks. And it's a little bit different when you're in a war zone, when you've got people that are just as capable as you are with firearms firing back at you, than it is walking around the streets of the UK trying to look, cool with your Heckler and Koch machine gun never having to use it with your side on one. It's a whole different story when you've got to use it on a daily basis. Anyway, that's just a little bit of my history on that. But yeah, exactly. All really, really good on paper. But when it comes to practical applications and using the knowledge that they have, can't do it. Can't apply it. Right. I'm trying to do something a bit different tonight. I'm trying to I'm getting myself a streaming laptop eventually. I've been looking at one recently, and the laptop I have now, that's just going to be for editing videos and stuff. And I'm going to have a dedicated laptop just for streaming. So there's nothing slowing it down. So I can do videos. I can, react to videos or news items as well to make it a bit more interesting for you guys rather than me just talking all the time. That's why I'm trying to include a bit of, pictures and stuff we can discuss and that sort of thing. It's a learning curve. So let's talk a little bit about Tommy Robinson, because he's had some news. We've got a guy over here called Lord Pearson, and he's basically been batting in Tommy Robinson's corner. He's written letters to Wood Hill Prison asking about Tommy, asking if his treatment is being okay, and he got a response from the prison, a generic response, basically saying that we can't comment on individual prisoners and all this kind of rubbish, and saying that all our prisoners are treated equally and fairly according to the law, which we know is absolute rubbish. This is what they're going to say. And I just want to say, because there's still people out there that are calling Tommy a grifter, and he's a charlatan, and he's a con man. Well, I just want to say to those people that Tommy Robinson has got more guts, more courage, more principled outlook on life than anybody. There's not, even our political class, he completely outshines our political class 100%, because none of those people, and I include Reform in that, none of those people would be prepared to give up their freedom for their principles, would they? We saw what happened to Nigel Farage in the summer. He got accused of inciting the riots in the summer, and he immediately folded like a piece of paper and threw Tommy Robinson under the bus. So none of these people have the principles or the convictions that they claim to have. It made me laugh when I heard Nigel Farage saying in that speech that I'm a warrior, I'm going to fight. And it's like, no, you're not, because you folded like a piece of paper at the first hurdle and you threw Tommy Robinson under the bus. Absolute joke. And I really hope that when Tommy comes out of prison, that he pursues legal action against Wood Hill Prison and its governor. I really hope he does. I hope that Elon Musk gives him that ability to go after these people, or at least do documentaries about his treatment and show the absolute corruption of these people. Like I said, Tommy Robinson, nothing but respect for the guy. He's on the front line, and he's sacrificed for his principles. And that is a very rare thing in the world nowadays. It really is. And all those people that call him a grifter, call him a con man, there are easier ways to grift. There are easier ways to grift. There are easier ways to make money than put yourself in prison for 18 months in solitary confinement at personal risk to yourself. Doesn't really fit the profile of a grifter, because they always tend to take the easy route, don't they? Grifters. Anyway, yeah. So what Enoch is saying, is there a judge in the UK that will side with Tommy Robinson justice? Not a chance, Enoch. No way. Unfortunately, like you've got activist judges in the US well, most of our judges, the whole of our judiciary has basically been taken over by the far left. They're all activist judges, and there's not a court in the land where Tommy would get a fair hearing. There just isn't. They control them all. You've probably noticed at the minute that we had recently a Labour MP who committed assault against a member of his constituency, a voter, and he punched him. And he didn't just punch him once; he repeatedly punched him while he was on the floor. And what justice did he get? What punishment did he get? He got first off, he was going to go to prison for 10 weeks, and he would serve 40% of that prison sentence, which would come down to about a month in prison. And then he appealed it. And normally these things take months to go through to get an appeal and stuff like that. But his went through really fast, and he got his sentence reduced down on appeal to just a suspended sentence for 2 years. So he's out of prison for assaulting somebody. He's not going to see any prison time, even though he's physically hurt somebody. He'll see no prison time. Yet you've got people like Tommy Robinson in on a civil offence, and he's got 18 months in prison, in a maximum security prison, when he should be in a Category D prison, which is an open prison, a prison where he can do his job. They would let him out of prison on release, and he could go to work and then go back to prison. That's where he should be. Or the sentence he's been given is basically a sentence that would be handed down to somebody that committed criminal contempt of court, which is where you prejudice a case, or you deliberately prejudice a case, you leak information, stuff like that. Tommy's is a civil case. Tommy's is just him not respecting the will of the court. So that's a civil offence in this country. So roughly, normally for contempt of court, you would serve probably a month in prison, or you'd get a fine, or you'd be on release on tag, which would be house arrest in your home. But they've thrown the book at him, the absolute maximum they could give him. So, and he's in solitary confinement for obvious reasons. It's not a choice. It's not a choice when the only other option is to be in general population and probably get stabbed. That's not a choice. That's you being forced into solitary confinement for your own safety. Colour resolution against Israel. Yeah. Same all over the West these days. Yeah, unfortunately, no such thing as free speech. I'm glad for you guys in America that you've got President Trump and you've got your freedom of speech back. And well, you've always had your freedom of speech because you've got the you've got the First Amendment and the Second Amendment. I've advocated for that over here. We need a written constitution like America, and we need, because we have something called the Magna Carta, and the Magna Carta has been repealed consistently over the centuries by laws, repealing it and replacing certain aspects, and that's deliberate. We need a Bill of Rights in this country that enshrines free speech and free expression into law, like you guys have over there. And we need a Second Amendment to protect it, to stop tyrant governments like we have at the minute, the Starmer communist regime, from their tyranny. It's needed, in my opinion. And a lot of people are going to say, well, we don't really have a gun culture in this country. Well, the fact of the matter is we have gun crime. We have a lot of gun crime in this country. Americans are shocked when I tell them this. Yeah, we have gun crime. It's just not reported on. I live close to a city called Sheffield, and I know the people, the doormen that work on the doors of the clubs and the bars and stuff, and every weekend they're being fired upon by gangs, by armed gangs. I've seen the bullet holes in the top of the club doors where people have opened car windows and, poked out a sawn-off shotgun and fired at people. So we do have guns in this country, illegal guns, lots of illegal guns, but it's just not reported on. Right. I think that's all I'm going to say. 30 minutes. That's my limit on this. So yeah, just wanted to get a few things off my chest, just straight talking, just saying it how it is. I don't script these things, as you can tell. I don't want to sound like a robot reading off a script. You know, I think it's more natural when it comes from your heart and it's instantaneous. Combination of disarmed population and say infused police force. Yeah. At this point, to be honest with you, Enoch, I'm really glad that our police don't carry firearms. We have firearms armed response units, which are totally different. But I'm glad that all our police officers don't carry firearms, because the quality of police officer that we have in this country now is just so low. The training's awful. You've only got to watch some auditing videos where auditors go around and the police don't know the law. I'm so glad they're not armed, because we'd be in real trouble. Soy. Yeah. Right. I'm going to call it on this one. So thanks for watching, Enoch. And for all you people that are going to come along and probably not watch this live stream, because my channel is shadow banned, so people don't see my channel. But for all my subscribers, please go and subscribe to my Rumble channel. It's on the bar at the bottom going round. Vindicator Vengeance. On Twitter, X, I'm called Dark Knight DA. Go check me out. And if you can't get it off the screen, there's a link to it on my channel. Just go and find it. It's on the front page of my channel. Go and click on that and follow me on Twitter/X. There's one last comment from Enoch. I watch Charlie Veitch a lot, and the state of the cops in the UK is embarrassing. It is. It is. Yeah, I do, Enoch. I'm working on actually streaming to both YouTube and Rumble eventually. I'm going to try and stream to 3. I'm going to try and stream to YouTube, Rumble, and Twitter/X eventually. But it'll come in time. I'm going to try and get a few more subscribers over on Rumble first. And as you know, it's really hard to build up a following on Rumble. So I'm trying to do that. I'm going to try and put some more content over there, exclusive content, and link to it on my YouTube, and let people follow it over to my Rumble channel and go and watch it over there. Because I don't have to be as self-censor as much, even though I don't anyway. I don't really self-censor on here anyway. But I can say more things on Rumble that I can on here without my channel getting completely taken out. So yeah, I'm going to call it, because the internet is going down apparently. That's not good. So yeah, thanks for watching, everybody, and I shall catch you in the next live stream. This is Vindicator. Sign off. Thanks for coming, Enoch. Thank you.